Alright, there we go. Finally, we're live. Not cutting it close at all. Everything is good on our end, and I hope everything is good on your end. We're the Go.Live Gaming Podcast, and we are the ones that follow everything that is EA, Bioware, and Anthem. When we can't talk about Anthem, we talk about other stuff. So today we're going to talk about other stuff. Yeah. But today I have some lost people with me. Not that they're lost. Yeah, a little bit lost. But they also were lost for the last two episodes, or the last episode, since we all missed one. But hey, whatever. So today we have Whiskey Zero, also known as Luke, with us. Hey, man.
What's going on? Good to be back, man.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We
Back
also
in the
have
sensible.
we also have Chromatism, also known as Josh, with us.
Hello. Yep, I'm here again, always, as it seems. Can't keep me away.
Well, just like how we like it. And we also have... that's not Raker. I knew I missed something. It says that you're Raker.
That's what he looks like.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Why does this show never go without me screwing something up?
Surprise!
The cat's out of the bag.
Oh.
Let's hope it
Literally.
doesn't pull down the green screen.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. It's Drainus, also known as James. I almost forgot what your name there for a second.
Hi,
That
guys.
would've been
Hi, Sarge.
awesome.
Nice to be back, guys.
Yeah, the guys are back from the States.
Yes,
the
we have
great
been in
United
Florida for the
States.
last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We have been enjoying sunshine, nice weather, more sunshine.
Mustangs.
Oh.
I miss
Did you
sunshine.
meet Florida Man? I think we all need to know this question. Did you meet Florida Man?
I don't know.
Mr. Florida wasn't around.
Florida
Oh.
man.
But I think he hangs around Miami more than Orlando, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably, actually, yeah. So you missed that insanity. Oh, what a shame. I mean, your trip was not complete without that, you know?
Yeah, true. All
He
right.
needs Mickey and Minnie when you have Florida Man.
True. For anyone that is interested, we're currently live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer. If you don't have time to stay with us the entire time, this wonderful Thursday on the 5th of April 2018, then you're more than welcome to check out the VOD on our YouTube tomorrow. And if you can't, or if you don't want to watch the entire show, you can listen to the show in podcast format in your favorite podcast app, because we're going to upload it on SoundCloud and on iTunes. So, that will be accessible on Saturday. Also, if you enjoy the show, then please send us an email at feedback@gunsofanthem.com. So, today we're obviously going to talk a little bit about the exciting trip to the States with these jolly fellows. And we're also going to talk about a former Bioware studio head talking about the life under EA and getting us some actual information how it is to work for EA and have being bought by EA and all that. So it's quite interesting, because I feel like all we really have to go on these days is the meme of EA being these bad guys. Certainly they have done stuff to deserve that meme, but yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're also going to talk about the let's see, what were they called? It's called Seed, the EA special developments section, I guess you could call them. They develop these interesting new technologies that could be beneficial for gaming. And they've created an AI, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that and what potential outcomes that could have for the gaming industry. I think that could be quite interesting, if you ask me. So, and we also have one thing that is sort of the title of this video, which is that Bioware claims that the studio would have been closed without EA. And that's an interesting one, because there's been some recent updates just before the show started, actually, which we're probably going to have a discussion about in and of itself. So that news itself is something that I'm probably not going to say take it with a grain of salt, but it comes from, whatever. We're going to talk about it in a bit. So first off, I want to see how the guys have been doing over in the States. What you've been up to? Who wants to start?
What have you been up to, man? We've been all over. We did Space Center, which is cool. We had to hide in a giant hangar with a Saturn V rocket because a tornado came through. That was interesting.
Oh,
We ate a lot of really bad food, but really good food, if that makes sense. Really, really good, but really bad for you. The closest we came to fruit and veg was strawberries and sugar sauce, and that was breakfast.
all right.
Did lots of miles in our soft top Mustangs, which was good fun. Generally, just enjoying the sun. I mean, what was your highlight, James?
Kennedy Space Center has to be. That place was. You just take all concepts of what you know about numbers and add some more zeros on the end until you get to the point where you can't comprehend them anymore. That place was just insane. Absolutely insane. Loved it. Plus, we almost got hit with a tornado, which made the afternoon exciting. Yay, we didn't die.
And you
We took
didn't
off in
die.
snow, and then we encountered a tornado.
Actually, taking off from Gatwick was relatively interesting. We started off the morning and there were warnings of snow around Gatwick and the London area,
All right.
and we left home, headed towards Gatwick. By the time we got to Gatwick, the front of the car was just snow.
Correct.
No discernible features to it whatsoever.
No number plate.
The Heathrow Airport had already cancelled dozens of flights by this point. Luckily, our flight wasn't cancelled, but by the time we got onto the plane, the pilot came across the radio and said, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you on board this flight. Just to let you know, we'll be leaving slightly late today as we need to de-ice the wings."
All right.
Yeah.
What? Why
Let's
can't you
be
just
fair.
tell me that, there was like a bag that had got lost or fell over on the tarmac or something? Why did you have to tell me that?
The left
They're
flange
being
needed.
conscientious enough to actually de-ice the wings. I mean, there are small mercies here.
I mean, to be fair, we were sat by the wing doors. They might have, they could have kicked us outside to do it. That would have been bad times.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You've got to
plus
sit
if
inside and
anyone's
watch.
ever seen people I know de-icing cars, then it would have taken a year.
For credit cards.
Yeah. How do you de-ice a plane? Did you guys see how they did it, or?
They blasted it with really big hoses.
All right.
Yeah, real huge hoses.
And the
Just
entire
watch
this-
and the entire plane flash freezes and everything goes to hell.
I was just wondering that, yeah.
You did have the impression that if they turned that hose on the windows, it would have just gone straight through the glass. It was terrifying.
All right.
Which for me was fine because I was sat in the middle of the plane. He was sat right by the window. So James would have got an impromptu
cushioned
high
it,
pressure
yeah.
wash.
That's fine.
I would have got the full blast of it. Had my head taken off like a cannonball.
But we also had a go on a few interesting games that they got in the theme parks. One that you particularly enjoyed was a ride around, built around the Men in Black, where you ride around shooting laser pistols on a roller coaster. And James decided, because he had a spare one next to him, to actually double hand it. And he was there just like,
Yes!
Which theme park
Dual
was this?
wielding.
So
You know what
Absolutely.
would make that ride?
Well,
Universal
Make it-
Studios.
Universal,
those
yeah.
like-
I've been there.
One of those laser pistols is secretly the
Yeah.
noisy cricket. You just see somebody flying out of the car. That'd be great.
See, I was trying. I actually got hardly any points, and I worked out. My problem was I was trying to be accurate, whereas James was just like.
It was
Yeah, good fun.
amazing.
It was good fun. Definitely got a bit of post-holiday blues. It's not very warm. At least we have daylight,
Aw.
but I want to be back in the sunshine. be honest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the jet lag. Jet
Yeah,
lag
the only
is
thing-
not
That's
my
it.
friend right now.
The only, I think I can speak for both of us when I say the only thing that has got us through this week is the prospect of just being on here with you guys. Yeah.
Of course. It's the highlight of everyone's week. Everybody knows that.
Everybody.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else to live for. Really. That got
Wow.
Yeah.
that got dark.
Tomorrow's going to be fun.
It's like, dude, make sure you keep him away from any sharp objects tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that sounds like a wonderful trip. I was in Orlando when I was about 15 or something like that, and I loved that trip. It was a really interesting experience to be in the States as a Swede on many different planes, just because of the culture shock and all that. You think, like, when you're watching TV and you're like, oh, we know everything about the States, and they're not that different from us, but yeah, there are. It's a big shift.
So different. So
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, and I've been to London a couple of times, and the culture there is like in Britain. Obviously, you all know that it's way different as well. So you think we're really close, but we really aren't, are we? But yeah,
We're just joined by our love of computer games and EA in particular, and especially Anthem. That's what brings us together.
course.
That's where we live.
of course,
Absolutely.
of course. All right. We might as well just, on that note, kick off the first subject of the day. Subject, and that was a weird pronunciation of that word. And I want to talk about when Aaron Flynn, the former head of Bioware, he's not at Bioware anymore, he talked to Kotaku on the split screen sort of news podcast. And it was a really interesting talk, actually. I was surprised how good the guy was at talking. I was thinking, like, I haven't listened to a split screen before, so I was thinking, like, at first I wasn't really connecting who is who here. And I was thinking that Aaron Flynn, the guy we're talking about now, was the guy leading the podcast because he was so good at what he was doing. But then again, that just, I guess, comes with the job of being the head of something. But it was really interesting to listen to, and they talked a lot about how it was to be acquired by EA and working under EA, and what it was like before and how it was like after. And I feel like this gives us an interesting picture that we really don't see, and I don't understand why EA and Bioware and all of these companies working together don't show more often, because I feel like there is an issue with how EA in particular handles publicity. They go with the standard route of just doing trailers and doing ads and all of that, but they're not really showing us the inner workings of the studios, not to the extent that I would like to see. Like like a good example that I was thinking about today is Star Citizen. Are you guys interested in that game? Just on a
I
side
have
note.
managed to stay away from sinking way too much money because I know I absolutely would.
Yeah. Has
I'm
anyone
hoping
Massive
it's gonna be good.
shit.
has anyone
Yeah.
tried it except me?
I've played one of the early alphas, and I was like, yeah, this could be awesome, and I've just not even touched it
Aye.
since.
Yeah, but they've had the shitstorm of being this meme online where basically everybody's saying, all right, they're taking our money, but they're not doing anything. We're not seeing anything, but that's not really the case. I feel
No.
like I feel like it's Robert Space Industries, or they might go under a different brand name or a different company name now. I'm not entirely sure from the top of my head, but they have like weekly updates of showing us more and more stuff where the devs talk about, all right, now we're working on this, and they have these videos where they're showing people working out bugs of the game, and there's just so much for people to see there, that they're actually working on something and moving forward and doing progression in a positive way, that I feel like that old Star Citizen meme, it sort of caved in on itself after a while, because especially from what the recent stuff what we've seen, and I feel like that is an approach that maybe EA should move a little bit more towards. But that's just a long side note, but it's a side note that I think is quite interesting, because when you listen into this conversation with Kotaku and Aaron Flynn, I think I said Aaron before, but it's Aaron Flynn, is that this opened up so many opportunities for Bioware, like the culture that they have on EA, from what I've heard from Aaron and from other sources, is that being acquired by EA doesn't change too much, other than opening up a lot of more opportunities to actually being able to explore and talk to more people and get a bigger pool of knowledge that you can actually use in order to create something that you wouldn't be able to create otherwise. So working for EA, Aaron wants to make this point very strongly that it just opens up opportunities, and the only thing that they were pushing for when he was over at Bioware was that they should have the biggest creative freedom that they have and create what they want. Of course, there's always going to be the focus of how do we monetize that stuff, but apparently EA is not like getting their hands dirty in the projects of the acquired studios too much like we would expect them to do. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you guys want to say on this, but I thought it was quite interesting.
I do, but I'll say it after everybody else is gone.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it is interesting. Of all the big publishers and developers and things, EA as a business is very controlling over the messaging in general, and it very much relies on its marketing to sell.
Yeah,
and I just don't know if it knows how to loosen up and allow individual developers to actually publicize themselves. It's almost like if we let them do that, then what are we here for? Does that make sense? As a publisher, they're the ones that's supposed to do all of that. And there's always the danger that from a PR perspective, if you let people within the developer agency themselves actually have full unfettered access to the fan base, there's the chance that they could actually build up a big enough following that they can separate, do their own thing, and take the fans with them. So which is a bit cynical. It's money at the end of the day, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. It did kind of have the tang of this is a script, read script.
A little bit.
Stick to script because script is nice. We like script. Marketing is approved script.
Script is where we live.
But on a slightly less cynical note, it was pretty standard, really. Actually, there wasn't any great reveals in there. We work together, and more people working together allows us to create more and bigger of everything, which benefits the community, benefits their product, benefits the games, etc., and it also benefits them as individuals and allows them to further their own careers, which is good. I kind of have a little bit of trouble digesting exactly what they were trying to get across.
Yeah, I mean, they were sort of trying to press him on EA making, like, if I read, first they say misguided decisions, and it also does some horrible things, and Flynn starts laughing, and it's like, horrible things, yeah, sure, that's not horrible, then they're joking about it, and they're saying atrocities and commit atrocities. Yeah, EA has committed genocide, some war crimes, like they're spinning it off, and yeah, we've seen some decisions from EA, but I do personally feel like that's what I was trying to come across with how EA does their marketing. Like, we don't really see the things that they want to try to market, because that is so generic that it just sort of flows through the content that we are getting provided constantly.
But at the same time, sorry, just to come in with that though, I mean, this is also carries on to what Luke was saying a little bit, is that doing it the way they are doing it with the marketing means that you also then don't have Peter Molyneux's or Sean Murray's totally doing their thing, creating expectations and hype, where suddenly it goes and fails.
Yeah, agreed.
So, I mean, there are pros and cons to both sides of how you actually do all this. And I'm sure, honestly, what's his name? No, I want to say Chris Perry, but it's not. The fellow who's making Star Citizen was guilty of that in the beginning, and then he cooled off just a little bit. Things started to.
Yeah.
So,
but we all see what happens when you let a developer get too hyped up on their own product. I mean, No Man's Sky comes to mind.
But that they also made a mistake when it came to Hello Games, because they had Sean, what's his last name?
Sean Murray.
It represents the whole company. He became the face of the company. He became everything that the company stood for. I feel like opening up to something like where Star Citizen does, that you can see what the developers does or do, and see these multiple faces. You see the entire company, the people actually working there, instead of this facade that we're getting fed.
Logo.
Yeah.
You know.
And on that topic,
Yeah.
I mean, also Brennan Holmes on Reddit, who's the technical director at EA, who answers a lot of the Anthem questions on the Reddit. He makes it's very, very clear the way he comes across that he's only one part of a very, very large team. He doesn't come across as Sean Murray did as being the head of the project or anything like that. So,
but yeah, I feel like that is something that we're sort of missing when it comes to marketing and gaming, that we don't see the little guy. We don't see the guys in a good way who do the heavy lifting. And I feel like if we would know them better, maybe we wouldn't be as harsh on certain,
Good point.
I feel like the what I'm trying to get across here with the meme of hating EA is that everything that EA has sort of a branding on or has help with gets shunned by people because it's that EA label, that EA facade on top of it, but you don't see the guys who actually have made the product, which gives a sort of a skewed picture of the reality of things, in my opinion.
And if I may, because that's the perfect in for my point, and it's something of a counterpoint to the whole thing, is that what we're seeing in Aaron Flynn is we're not seeing the little guy. We're seeing what is effectively the VP of Bioware, or the ex-VP of Bioware.
True.
So my point would be, and I don't say this because it's EA, I say this just because it's corporate anything. I don't, I'm not part of the corporate world, but it seems very much to me that if you're going to do anything that might in some way cast a negative light on your former employer, or EA, then what you're doing is committing corporate suicide, because nobody in their right mind is going to employ somebody who can then leave a job and then say something incredibly negative or damning about a company. I'm not saying that there is anything negative or damning for him to say about EA. I'm not saying in any way that he's lying. All I'm saying is, be careful with what he's saying, because we have no way of knowing that what he's saying is the truth. I'm not saying it isn't, might not be. So I think it's a really interesting conversation. I hope it's right. I really honestly hope that he's on the level, but it's sort of, and this is my counterpoint, it's a sort of irrelevant interview because he's going to have his hands tied.
Yeah, true in a way, and I feel like that is something that I'm seeing when I'm trying to make this point. Like, it feels like when I'm reading articles and I'm trying to find out how it is to actually be in a studio that has been acquired by EA, it seems like it's an open relationship, and it seems like it's only beneficial for the studios that actually get acquired, in most cases. But we still have this cynicism towards EA because of the facade that they have built up, the bad marketing that has come through, the meme of hating EA, which makes these interviews sort of void. I do agree, because there's this cynicism that you go in through where, like, okay, he's just bullshitting. He's just saying what he needs to say because that sounds good and that's what EA wants him to say. But there could be some truth to it as well. So I do agree that there is an issue there that has to be addressed in the coming years from EA. Otherwise, I feel like, I don't know where it's going to end. But I do get your guys's points of this. But,
can I just quickly jump in on something here, Sarge?
Sure.
The sort of the meme of hating EA. We don't hate EA as a whole. We hate EA and the management of EA and the top brass that make the decisions that the gaming community really doesn't agree with. A lot of the little people, which we quite really like to get to know, and the developers, the people actually doing the hard graft, we don't hate them. Our quarrel is not with them.
No,
but equally, from their point of view, in the positions that they're in the corporate world, they are very unlikely to want to actually represent a public face of the EA company. That's not their job. That's not what they're employed to do. So I think that we can try and find the right words. The management of EA that puts out this sort of message and tries to have Bioware deliver it and say, this is Bioware saying this, and Bioware's just the little people, these are the little people that you like. And actually, no, it's just that EA message going through the EA management and not actually the people that we want to speak to and their actual views, which I get it's sort of the same thing as to what you were saying, but just to make that distinction there between the management, the corporate view, and the individual developer who actually just wants to code, just wants to program, just wants to graphic design.
We want to play great games without all the corporate stuff on the top of it. I think that's what it boils down to, isn't it?
Yeah,
pretty much.
And I feel like that is true, but there is a dissonance there that between the top dogs, the management, and the developers that actually do the hard work, and the writers and everyone who's actually creating the product. And I feel like that is something that they could use in a more healthy way to get the face of EA becoming something that it's currently not. I feel like there's opportunities there that they're not using. But yeah, I feel like this can tie us into the conversation about Bioware actually being closed without the EA acquisition. And there's a couple of things that we need to mention while we're going into this article. Is that when just before this, when we were checking out the sources of it, the sources of itself is a secondhand source. It was from Reddit with a guy who had attended Haven Con. And he wrote a Reddit post on the Dragon Age fan forum, I believe. And he just said like... at this panel, David Gator, Patrick Weeks, and Karen Weeks, those were the main guys on this panel, and they were basically saying that at the point where Bioware were acquired by EA, the company was in such a bad shape that it wouldn't have survived without the acquisition. Now, I do feel like I need to point out that the guy who made the Reddit thread actually deleted it because he saw that the Reddit thread itself had been made a gaming news article, and then I think it was David Gator. Was that David?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, apparently responded a little bit negative towards not being the first-hand information for those articles. So the guy removed the Reddit thread, and then he basically made an apology on Reddit, saying like, I didn't know how this worked, and I asked the the sites to remove the article, and I apologized to Gator and all that. But then again, this could be an entire conversation in and of itself. Beside of the actual news that I actually wanted to talk about, is that why is it like there could, in my point of view, there could have been a journalist there watching the panel, taken the information from that panel, and made the article, and that would have been a first-hand source. But now it became a second-hand source because this was not a journalist. There was some random Redditor that wrote about this, and then it became a thing that apparently you couldn't have up online. It's weird.
Yeah, it smacks of poor journalism, really. I'm sorry, but if you're looking to broadcast this as a story, you get a source that's better than Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Reddit is not. It's not the reliable source that actually a journalist working for the company being at the convention and recording what was said. That's a reliable source. But yeah, and unfortunately, then to put the guy, the Reddit user, through all of that, and then have him make an apology that's honestly not needed.
No, I feel like this entire thing is pretty weird in multiple ways. But one thing that I get what you're saying, that it's poor journalism to not be sort of the first-hand news about this. But I also feel like uh, this information itself hasn't, from what I've seen, been declined by these guys who actually attended the panel or who were speaking at the panel. So the information itself should still be solid. So from my personal point of view, I'm not entirely sure why they're making a big deal out of it, but yeah.
No, me neither. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to say something at a panel, which is public, open, then you're basically giving permission for that information to be disseminated, passed on. The guy who made the post, if he didn't intend it to go outside of that forum originally, like I was saying to you guys earlier, that's very naive. It's not really understanding how the internet works.
Yeah.
And on the count of that journalist, well, I hear what you're saying, James, and that it's lazy journalism, but in the games industry and in tech and things like that, it's quite normal. If you've got a slow news day and there's no press announcements coming out, you trawl the internet, you try and find a story. What annoys me though is that it was published wasn't in the spirit of the article it was using. It was kind of putting its own spin on it, and it wasn't necessarily correct.
It sort of turned the article into a clickbaity headline, didn't it?
Well, that's
the bit that I disagree with. Then, not the actual using.
That's bad journalism.
Yeah,
that's awful journalism.
Yeah, that's true. But it seems like the fact still remains of apparently Bioware being in a bad shape. Otherwise, these guys wouldn't have said it when they were acquired by EA. Now, I read a lot on the Reddit thread, and a lot of people were skeptical for this to be the case, which I do understand, because we are talking about a developer here who's made some titles which were universally acclaimed and critically loved, and it's weird that those games wouldn't make enough money for studio to actually survive on its own. I feel like that's weird, but hey, they may have been bad at just the economy side.
Yeah,
of things.
One could also argue, though, that if they were making those games and they weren't being financially viable, then why on earth did EA pick them up and they would have continued to make the same game series in almost exactly the same way? Because this happened after Mass Effect 1, and they still went on to make Mass Effect 2 and 3, which are arguably more ambitious than 1. So I don't. Yeah, there's something. There is a detail somewhere that's not entirely evident. Something's missing from this formula, I think. But you're right. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's even a money thing. Because clearly they're making money. I think it might actually just be a management thing or a stress thing, like trying to juggle the publishing side of it as well as the developing side of it was getting to be too much. So EA come in, give them a ton of money.
You can have
we'll take care of that bit. You just do what you like to do, which is build games.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a successful product, but that doesn't mean that the management or the economics department is actually doing the job that they should. That could be something that I feel. There was just from an example. They actually survived on their own, but NIP, Ninjas in Pajamas, the Counter-Strike Global Offensive team, they actually had an issue. I listened to the creator Emil Christiansen, Heaton. He's a legendary Counter-Strike player. He talked about this, and they actually had an accounting guy that basically almost killed that team and the entire company, because that guy went into a deep depression and he had the responsibility of the economic side of Ninjas in Pajamas. So that itself, a little thing like that, like one guy not doing what he should because he's depressed or has something going on, that almost killed a really successful Counter-Strike team in and of itself, just because they didn't keep their booking, they didn't keep their everything, like the papers in check and all that, and that could have ended up in a huge fine for them. But I think it ended up with them getting off pretty easy because of the circumstances in that situation. But we don't know.
Solid, it comes tumbling.
Yeah, we don't know the inner details about this. I feel like it would be interesting to deep dive into this. I'm hoping that some journalist is going to deep dive in this. I might try to contact Bioware, but I don't think that I'm going to get a statement for our little podcast regarding this issue. But I would like to hear more, and if like maybe like this is obviously, since they said it, it has some value, but to what extent? We don't know. We don't know the inner details of this topic at hand. But I still feel like it was interesting enough that I wanted to at least mention it going forward. Just on the side of, like, Bioware themselves really want to talk good about EA, but then again, they're part of it. Never mind.
It's in their interest.
Company
Let's be
message.
honest.
Yeah, it's certainly in their interest. I gotta give you that. All right, let's jump off the EA Bioware wagon or train or whatever you want to call it for a little bit and jump over to DICE. I guess you could say DICE and Seed, the development department over at EA that creates. Let's see here. It stands for Search for Extraordinary Experiences. Short for, or the long, whatever, for Seed. Search for Extraordinary Experience Division. Oh, missed the D. There's a joke in itself, but hey. They have created a self-learning AI agent that has managed to teach itself how to play Battlefield 1 multiplayer. And this is really interesting. We saw this from it was not the Google AI. It was not Elon Musk. Who was it that made the AI that played Dota 2? Do you guys remember?
It was Elon Musk, yeah.
It was Elon Musk, yeah. Yeah.
I just can't remember which one of his companies it was.
Yeah, they developed an artificial intelligence that learned to play Dota 2, and it actually managed to beat a lot of the really good players, the best players in the world, as a matter of fact, in Dota 2. And for someone who doesn't know the inner workings of these things, might think like that's not that impressive. Like it's just a game. Like they have developed AIs and robots that have beaten people in chess and in Go and in all of these other board games and all that. But the thing is about having an AI actually learning itself in a game is that there's so many more variables that the AI itself has to take into account. It's not really as set in a movement pattern as something like chess is, for example. So something like Dota 2 or Battlefield is the AI itself has to take into account a lot of more variables to make itself viable to be interesting in any sort of plane at all. So that is why this is impressive. Now, the technology itself, whether or not it's useful, we're going to have to see. But it creates these opportunities to maybe have the AI test out maps before they're actually launched, and they can find out places where the map is broken and fix bugs like that, or they can find other places where they can improve stuff. And it's an interesting new way to tackle development, because this has to do a lot with testing, it seems, like testing new systems in games. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm going to try to get the little video up on the stream here.
So this was actually what made it interesting for me is this is a self-learning AI. So they built it, they've set it out onto the game, and it's learned every time it's died. It's learnt how to not die in that way again, which is brilliant and also mad scary. It makes me think of Skynet.
Yeah.
But yes, it's very smart. It makes me wonder what other technology they've got going on in that incubator.
Yeah. Certainly.
But yeah, I'm curious about it, but it's also worth saying that this doesn't just come from I think they're taking an idea that's fairly recent, because the oldest idea I remember for this was actually an Unreal Tournament competition where they made, which I think culminated in 2012, where basically a group of people got together to make bots to try and beat the Turing test. Which, incidentally, if you don't know what that is, it's just whether or not people think that it's basically a human on the other side of the AI. And they were pretty successful. However, I think the difference here is, as you said, this is a self-learning AI. As far as I'm aware, although they were teaching the neural net how to play Unreal Tournament, they were using an evolutionary approach where they go in with a preset strategy for each of the AI bots, and then they sort of condense things and they strip away the stuff that wasn't working, and which I'm assuming is what the self-learning AI is doing, just without the human interaction over the top of it. Perhaps, I'm not sure. So it's an interesting approach to make. But I would also love to see stuff like, and it's funny this should come up, because I've been thinking about this lately before I saw this article in single player games, and even simple stuff. I remember some of the best AI experiences I've encountered, where again they were still limited because you could still sort of cheat the system, were Far Cry, the original Far Cry, not some of the later iterations, but that had a fantastic system whereby you actually had one central AI figure leading a group of other AI figures. So they put suppressing fire into bushes, they try and root you out. They didn't know exactly where you were. And also in Fear, because in Fear, when they coded the AI, rather than actually creating routines like hide behind this box and throw a grenade, or maybe you can make this choice here, they actually they let the bots know where everything was, and then they sort of said, well, this might be the shortest path to the player, but is it the right one? And they gave the bots sort of the choice. And to me, those are the two best single-player experiences I've had in gaming when it's come to AI. So I'd love to see that come into single-player, not just to test maps, but as my adversaries. Obviously, I don't want them to beat me 100% of the time, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
And also, shout out to the worst bots I ever played against in Counter-Strike.
Oh, yes. Wow.
Yeah.
That's something else.
So if they could fall somewhere in the middle between between that
God.
and that'd be great.
Yeah, this technology just opened a really interesting possibility when it comes to like making a multiplayer environment feel more alive, when it comes to like having better bots and stuff like that, because these bots would basically be able to make their own decisions, which other bots wouldn't be able to. They're basically following waypoints and reacting to targets that appear on the screen. They don't. They're not learning anything.
But what the Dota 2 bots also showed, and there's obviously room for improvement, this could change over time, but the Dota 2 bots, while they did start to beat some of the best players in the world, the best players in the world quickly came back and realized that the bots themselves had limitations even in their own learning, because the problem with the bots is they cannot make long-term decisions. They can only make short to medium-term decisions. So these players are going, well, actually, we can glitch the bot into making it think we're doing this, do this instead, and then we'll beat it every time. So there are still limitations to how it all works, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I was going to say the interesting thing that always breaks them is the fact that as of yet, they've been unable to create an artificial intelligence that can think like a human, i.e. we will often do the illogical and, logically speaking, stupid thing because we're more creative, if that makes sense. We'll see some angle that just can't be figured out through pure cold logic, and that's exactly what those data players were doing. They were thinking, they were observing what the AI was doing, and they figured out kind of some pretty out there ways to circumvent that. So yeah, there's hope
Quote
for
from Mass Effect: "We organics are driven by emotion instead of logic." That's what I was looking for.
But these just
topical.
But can I just say, so just
sure.
quickly, I know a few weeks ago we were talking about community management and managing people who were being obscene in chat. in video games. If you've got people like that, stick them in games against bots in multiplayer.
Yeah.
And make the bots impossibly hard.
And don't tell them.
Yes, don't tell them.
Sure.
Passive aggressive community management.
Yeah.
They'll just rage until they quit, and then everyone else just carries on having a great time.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I love it.
I do agree. I
copyright.
do agree.
Trademark, please. EA, send a check.
So there are other opportunities for a system like this. This is an self-learning AI, for example. You could use this to implement it in other games, probably on the same engine, but in other games where, for example, you could do internal stress testing on a totally different level. You wouldn't have to like waypath and configure bots in the game that do your testing for you. You could actually use these experimental AI. I'm still going to call them bots. And they're going to just...
They have feelings, Sarge!
They're going to keep learning and testing and trying new things in the environment of the game, and that could show up a lot of bugs that you wouldn't have otherwise, and probably stress the servers and the systems a lot more than regular bots could do. So there's a lot of experimental testing systems that are really interesting with this technology that we didn't have otherwise, which probably will create a better experience for us, the gamers, in the end when it comes to the finished product. I do believe there are those possibilities. So I hope they... I would be surprised that they wouldn't use them for
exciting times. Yeah, there are a lot of things you could use that for. It's very, very interesting indeed.
Yeah. So we see a lot of interesting progression in the gaming industry, I believe. Like we're not seeing these huge graphical leaps anymore, but they're really thinking outside the box. How can we make or create a better, more polished and better feeling experience for our gamers through new systems and stuff like that.
Take away the live services. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, but we've talked about these like cloud computing and whatever and all of that stuff a lot in the past, and I feel like that's just part of the bigger picture going forward with gaming and why it's an interesting time to be a gamer. Yes.
It's always interesting to be a gamer.
Yes. It's always...
Remember those days when we moved from 8-bit color? It was interesting to be a gamer then.
Yeah, agreed. First time you got your hands on a 3D experience. That was rad, I gotta say.
No, I'm not.
Kids nowadays...
I'm gonna do it.
No.
Kids nowadays...
Leave that one there, Luke.
Won't experience that.
It's parked.
No,
we're good. We're okay.
Now you have my interest peaked, though. But all right. Sure. We're moving closer to the end of the first segment of the show, but I feel like there's a couple of honorable mentions that we can fill the last about 10 to 15 minutes with. And the first one is that they're going to release the Dragon Age, the Stolen Throne, a deluxe edition of this. And what is this, you might ask? Is this an DLC that you've never heard of for Dragon Age? No, it's not. It's actually the book that was written in par with Dragon Age Origins. So this is the deluxe edition of this book. It's a prequel story to a Dragon Age Origins. Haven't read it myself, but it's going to be released at the end of this year, so 18th of September, or towards the last third of the year. That's probably not how we say that, but hey, whatever.
Final quarter.
Final quarter. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. So that's something that I just wanted to mention for the hardcore Dragon Age fan. There are also some Mass Effect book out there if you're a Mass Effect fan, when it comes to Bioware stuff, which I can recommend. They're quite interesting.
But those ones written by Drew.
Let's see here. The thing is, this book itself is actually written by David Gator, which we talked about in the Dead Without EA segment. The guy who actually got a little bit upset that this became news. He's the guy who read this or written this book. The one who written the Mass Effect books. I do not know.
Because there was a trilogy of Mass Effect books that were written that ran parallel to the original trilogy of games.
Yeah.
And certain characters from the games bled into the books, and they were written by Drew, and they were very good.
They are written by Drew. 3 of the Mass Effect novels have been written by Drew Karpyshyn, while the 4th and most recent novel was written by William C. Dietz. And all novels have been published by Del Rey Books, apparently. I haven't read. I've started reading. I feel like it was the first Mass Effect book, but it's certainly interesting to see more of that universe because it's a really interesting universe in my opinion.
Ascension? One of them's called Ascension. I now can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I for some reason removed the information, but one of them were called Ascension. Yeah. I can confirm that.
They are excellent reads.
Yeah, so if you're into those universes, then go ahead. Why don't you? And our last little thing that I want to fill the time out with is actually I stumbled upon a top 100 video games of all time from IGN. And I felt it was interesting to just quickly go over like the top 10 and see how we agree with this list. I can say from just reading this that the guy, I believe it was a guy, let's see who made this. Does it say? I don't want to jump to conclusions. But the person, let's just say the person who made this list, seems to be sort of a Nintendo fanboy. Certainly. But then again, Nintendo...
Mario and Zelda.
Yeah. Like Super Mario is up there, and I can say that Zelda is up there as well. But yeah, from 10 to 1. The first one is Super Mario 64, apparently. Number 10. Is that a game that you guys would have on your top 10 list, you think?
It was a watershed 3D platformer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was...
Open world sandbox Mario game. Was it the first sandbox Mario game, if memory serves me correctly? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
It's certainly a good game. You can sink loads of hours into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the game that defined how to control cameras from a third-person perspective, in platformers, and that was the first game that actually did them well in a 3D environment. So I would say absolutely. I mean, whether or not you hate the game, it's responsible for a lot that's come after.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Agreed. I do think that... I'm not entirely sure it would be on my top 10 list, but...
Be on mine. Be on mine.
Yeah, sure. It's still a game that was loads of fun and was really groundbreaking at the time of the release. The number 9 game is apparently Red Dead Redemption.
Okay. Maybe
Okay.
2? I mean...
Yeah. I've actually, since I've not been a PlayStation owner for that long, I haven't played through Red Dead Redemption.
No.
So.
I mean, yeah, it's I guess I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't have it in my top 10. It's a good
Oh.
game, but
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Red Dead Redemption was the sequel. I'm thinking of Red Dead.
No,
Sorry, I'm thinking he was referring to the first one. So I beg your pardon, but do carry on.
Red Dead Redemption, the
Yeah.
release 2010.
Brain fart.
Yeah.
I can think of better GTA clones.
All right, but I've heard a lot good about it. I do know. I do have a couple of friends who have spoken very highly of the game, but seems to be a little bit lukewarm on this one. No pun intended.
Well, if you like your Wild West sandboxes and you like to have random glitches that can be hilarious, then yeah, sure.
And I must admit, the world does interact with you extremely well as well in Red Dead Redemption. That was one of the things that captured my attention with it. Is how well the world seems to react to what you do in it. So that was very cool too.
All right.
But I wouldn't say it was top 10
Great.
for me.
The next one I can agree with, though. It would be certainly on my top 10 list, which is Half-Life 2.
Knock off
Only
the
at
2.
number 8?
Knock off the 2 and maybe you're there.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Oh, Josh. That's
Nope,
hard.
Half-Life 1 was the better game. Sorry. Nope.
Oh.
3 episode 2 was pretty good. Where's episode 3 that you trigger me now?
Where's Half-Life 3? Yeah.
Hey,
It'll never be as good as you
Half-Life
think it should.
will be, but Half-Life. I agree with you there, Josh. Half-Life for me, it was a seminal game.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
it was the first game, if I remember, to bring in procedural loading, so that you didn't have to wait for load screens. It would load stuff in front of you as you went. It was just
It was so good.
so many good hours. So many hours
I know
spent.
there was System Shock out around. I know System Shock 2 was around the same time as Half-Life, but I never played the original System Shock, so I never played a game like Half-Life until this point. I was amazed by it.
Right,
Half-Life 2
fair.
just didn't have the same impact for me. So it was good. It was great. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic, but Half-Life, yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. So apparently Half-Life would make it up to the top 10 list, but not Half-Life 2 for some of these guys. I would
It
say
wouldn't
that
mind.
I would say that Half-Life 2, just because of some of the mechanics in the game, like the gravitational mechanics, the source engine overall, like this was the first real impression
Physics-based.
that we got from source, and that engine itself, like whatever game.
Puzzles.
Yeah, but like there's so many mechanics in that engine itself that makes the gameplay feel so brilliant that I do feel like I would probably hope like both Half-Life and Half-Life 2 would be on my top 10 list, but I do think for me personally, Half-Life 2 would take one step
I'm with you, Sarge.
further. Yeah, so 2 against 2 there, I guess. Next up is this one is I don't know, Tetris. I wouldn't have this on my top 10 list, I gotta say.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, I mean it's a classic,
Don't
and when it was new, it was groundbreaking in itself. But in the top 100 list or top 10 list, come on, Tetris, really? Nah.
It's
Nah.
iconic. It's an iconic game. So is Pong, but it wouldn't go on my top 10 list.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Like Pac-Man and Pong and
Boink.
Tetris, those are all in the
No.
same category for me.
Mm.
They're fun, but not.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Hmm.
Whatever. The number 6 game is Super Mario Bros. 3. It trumps Super Mario 64 on this list.
World, not 3. World.
World as well.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm not entirely sure I would put it above Super Mario 64 either.
No.
I
No,
think
we're
I'm going
not.
to choose 64 in front of
Yes.
World.
I
I'm
agree
probably
with you.
going to get some hate here, but actually my it was Mario Galaxy.
All
That was a
right.
good game. It was
just
a good
love
game.
that
Yeah.
so
it
much.
was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
Good enough. I loved the Super Mario Bros. 3 back in the days. I've played so many hours of it, but it's by far not my favorite Super Mario game, so it would not make my top 10. It's a really fun game, but not top 10 quality, in my opinion. Next up, we have one that I can agree with. The number 5 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Solid.
Yep.
Like I said, whoever wrote this is a little bit biased towards Nintendo games. I don't-
Nintendo and Valve.
Yeah, Nintendo.
So
Valve
there's
seems
a distinct lack of Sega going on here.
There is a missing like I
Yeah.
said, yeah.
There is. Very much so. I can say that Castlevania is on 12th. So
Yeah, I
that
mean,
wasn't saying-
Castlevania's good. I mean, it depends which one you like, though. I mean, do you like the Symphony of the Night is on 12? I was about to say because that's the actual,
Yeah.
Metroidvania alike rather than the linear ones they had before that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. I like that one.
But yeah. A Link to the Past is probably like I liked a lot of Zelda games, but it's probably the one that I liked the most, and it's also no, it's not the first one I played, but it's the one that I've sunk most time into, I believe. and it
Played
just
Link's Awakening on the Game Boy first, actually.
yeah. I
same.
had
and then
I had both on the 8-bit console when
Yeah.
I was really
Yeah.
small. I played
It was-
like Zelda 2, that game. When I was so small, I couldn't make heads or tails of that game. That was
a hard game.
it's really hard. I was always like I came past the first town and then I progressed a little bit and I never came further than that.
it was solid though. I mean, who gave
Yeah.
you that? That's harsh.
Yeah. All right. Number 4 is Super Metroid. What do you guys feel about
Not
Metroid?
number 4.
Ooh. I think for me, if I was going to put Metroid on this list, it would actually be Metroid Prime, not Super Metroid. Personally.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on that. A unanimous conclusion or whatever. The number 3 is Portal.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yes.
Oh, Josh,
How I love it. Yeah.
I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't. Apart from the ending song, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was one of the best 2.5 hours you could spend.
I don't know. For me, when I'm probably a blasphemy coming from my mouth at the moment, but for me, like both Portal and Portal 2, I played both of them a lot, but the puzzle mechanics didn't speak to me. They spoke apparently to a lot of people, but they didn't really speak to me. Like it was fun doing portals and stuff, but
Yeah.
Can
Portal
I say
2
I
was
wanted
too
it to go
long
deeper.
for me.
Sorry, James. Thank you.
Portal 2 was too long for me. Portal 1 was just the right length. It was
Felt
a
like-
series of puzzle games,
Yeah.
2.5 hours. You blast through it. You have a great song at the end, some really amusing bits as you go through. Gladys's speech, the
yeah.
cake meme, as we all know. And
Delight.
yeah, absolutely. It just held together really well. It's all those elements just combined to make Portal a fantastic game. Unfortunately, Portal 2 for me was just a bit too much of the
Had too much filler in the middle.
yay, everything of more. More isn't
But-
always better.
I did like putting Gladys into a potato, and I
Okay.
especially like putting a portal on the moon. I mean, that
Keep
was.
the crows away.
The crows!
The crows. I might. This is gonna. I know they're not the same game, but they're technically in the same universe, so I don't feel too bad about saying this. I would put Half-Life 2 over Portal if it was me.
Yes.
But for
I-
me, it's the humor
any day.
aspect alone made it just so good.
Yeah. But I've never been that big into puzzle games overall, so that might be why. Next up, or the number 2 on the list, we have
Runner-up.
the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. For me, this doesn't.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't. I love the game, but it
Sure.
doesn't trump A Link to the Past for me.
Really?
But
Really?
the thing is about Link to the Past that it holds such a huge nostalgic value to me that that alone makes it better for me. But I do understand if you don't have that, like it was one of the first games that I play that over months and months and beat every boss and found every item on my own, and I was like, I couldn't have been older than like 8 or 9 or 10 at the time. So
In short trousers.
yeah, of course.
Do you know the crazy moment for me that cemented Ocarina of Time, and it was right at the beginning, nearly, that cemented Ocarina of Time as this is amazing. When I was younger, it was this is such a stupid thing. I had a Deku stick. It went through a torch. Deku stick it sets on fire, and I can set another torch alight with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
the pointy fairy boobies then.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, those were a bit of a downside. Those fairies are terrifying.
Yeah, but when we're talking about from the technical standpoint and being amazed of a game, Ocarina of Time was at the time amazing. The open world experience that we had there in a 3D environment, and certainly with those visuals and that sound design and everything that was unheard of at the time. So
Plus, if you want real pointy boobs, you got the original Tomb Raider.
Which should be on the list, and why is it not on the list?
Ah, never. No.
I would have put it top 10, but maybe top 20.
All right.
You know what? There's a video in this somewhere. A dirty top 10 video for us. But anyway, let's carry on.
We are
Oh,
moving on.
you're thinking of the Nude Raider patch.
Oh.
I couldn't
Ooh.
possibly comment.
Oh. Seems like these guys were never into any of that stuff. The first game, or the number one game on this list, is Super Mario World.
It's in my in fact, no, it's not even my top 10. But no, nah, mate.
Yeah, I mean,
like Duke Nukem 3D or Sonic.
There's GoldenEye
2,
as well.
or GoldenEye 64.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
yeah.
I'm sure we're missing out some Sony PlayStation properties as well with all of this. You know,
Is this just console games? No, it can't be. No, because
it's top 100 games of all time.
Half-Life.
Yeah.
Hell, I put Rome Total War in there, the original one.
Oh, you know, Total War in
nuts.
there? I put Shogun in there. I put the original Shogun in there, actually, now that you mention it.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Toy Soldiers on the PlayStation, or what's the other one I played that was really sticks with me?
Unreal Tournament 2004.
Oh, what a game.
Tournament. And did you guys ever play? Oh crikey, what was it called? What was that movie that came out in the 90s, which was Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny doing?
Space Jam.
Space Jam, the game.
I never played it. I
so
always wanted
good.
to. I never played it. Yeah.
It was ridiculously good fun. But I think the thing with these top 10 lists is so much of it is tied up in nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It feels like they've gone a lot towards like at the time it was groundbreaking, like Half-Life and Zelda Ocarina of Time. Every single game of these on the top 10 list, I guess except Super Metroid. I'm not entirely sure what Super Metroid and
like,
Super Mario Bros did. That was that
how can you
impressive.
have how can you have some of those games on there and not have, you know,
Halo
Doom or Quake or Halo? You know?
Yeah, Doom, Quake, and Halo, and also there's a lot of since we are a Bioware, since I started this project, and there's we're Bioware centric. There's always
Mass Effect.
yeah, like for me, the first, especially like Dragon Age Origins and the Mass Effect trilogy. I mean, that's close to my heart, and I can't even find it on this list.
I know it's not BioWare or EA, but it was original pre-BioWare. I would actually have Baldur's Gate myself.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Mass Effect is apparently on 58.
What, does it have Battlefield 1942 on there?
Oh, stop! My top 10 list is getting larger and larger.
I know, right? Let's never do a top 10 list because we're never.
No, let's. It's perfect.
We'll do a top 10 list that can have 100 things in it and maybe more.
Top 10 list with 90 honorable mentions that are just as good, just as worthy as being on the 10 list.
I also don't see Final Fantasy 7 on here.
I did pan through it. It's right at the start, position 99, I think, or something.
Yeah. Pokemon Go is the number 100, and then you have Final Fantasy 7. This is a travesty.
We got everybody
Pokemon
outside,
Yellow and Red.
Yeah, Pokemon Yellow.
Hello.
The only game I've ever bought where I specifically bought a console with the matching color.
You just wanted
a Game Boy Color in yellow with Pokemon Yellow. That was me done for about 6 months.
All right. Concluding this segment, we can probably say that IGN, you are wrong.
Yes. IGN, no.
Go back to the drawing. You call that journalism?
Yeah. Go back.
How dare you put your own slant on something so subjective, you gits.
Go back to us next week. We'll do it better.
Yeah.
Publish it. Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
With that said, we're going to make a quick little transition without any stingers and anything like that. We're keeping it scaled down and personal on this show. So this time around, we're just moving over to last segment of the show. We've talked about the meaty stuff, and now we're just going to suggest stuff for you to do. Something that you can indulge in, something that you can, I don't know, experience that will fulfill your life in a way that nothing else can until the show will go live next week. So, first off, who shall we start with? Maybe the wannabe Americans over there.
Are we allowed to say go to Disney?
Yeah, you're
No,
allowed to.
Plan it and go before next week.
I know,
It's a
right?
little bit
It'll be
expensive, but
pretty
sure.
quick trip. But yeah, why not? No, in all seriousness, get Ready Player One on audiobook. It's on Audible. It's read by Will Wheaton. It's amazing. And when you're
Solid.
done with that, go to the cinema and watch Ready Player One.
Yeah, I haven't actually
Both
watched that
equally
one.
good in their own way.
I need to see it. Is it good?
I have. It's really good. It's completely different from the book, but it stands alone in a really good way, and they don't take away from one another, which
That's
is
high
really
praise.
super rare. So
Yeah,
seriously,
that is rare.
read it or listen to the audiobook. Go out and watch it. Enjoy yourself. Nerd out. Geek hard. I geeked hard. It was great fun.
All right, I feel like James is next.
Well, if you want something to fill your life, get a Hustler magazine and a box of tissues and retreat to something else.
If you
Sorry, couldn't
if you're in
resist.
your puberty, then that is a great.
Yeah, if you're sad and lonely.
Oh dear.
Oh, it's all gone to hell.
How did we end up here?
Apparently, this is a show where we talk about masturbation.
Yeah.
Hey, I was talking about reading literature. You took that, you know.
Oh
Nice
yeah,
picture,
and
indeed.
crying over the heavy articles. Yeah, sure. Sorry for
Nice
crying.
turkey high literature.
Highbrow.
Yeah.
Still crying from his. Well, anyway, moving on.
Crying.
No, I
sure.
was going to simply suggest a game which I purchased specifically for the flight across to Florida, and that was Super Mario Kart on the Switch.
It's good. It's really good.
It's just good fun. It's not particularly complicated. It's not particularly difficult. It's just a good laugh.
Yeah, Mario
Thank you,
Kart is
sir.
always. I always like the Mario Kart games. I feel
Plus,
like-
I may have
Back
also
on
bought
that.
the little steering wheels, which are literally about that big.
So much fun.
Sat there on the plane with my Switch up in front of me and just yeah. Person
Yeah,
on
we
the back
know.
thought I was a
James, that'd be good.
right plank.
are that those motion controls? Or how do they work?
Mhm.
All right.
They're like tiny Wii.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It
Mm.
literally they're like Wii controllers, and
All right.
they've done it really well. You can just slide them on and off the Switch console, and you stick them into the steering wheel,
Oh, the
and it just
Joy-Cons.
goes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely Joy-Cons.
All right. Cool.
Although why they're called Joy-Cons, I'm really hoping Joy is short
We
for
don't think about it
joystick.
too hard. Just
I'm really, really hoping it's just short for
They're
because
joystick
otherwise it's a bit
controllers.
cringy.
yeah, you see, Luke's got it. That's perfect. Your description there. Yeah.
Yeah, joystick controllers.
Yeah.
Joy-Cons.
Anything
Yeah.
else, it gets a bit cringy. But yes, Super Mario Kart on the Switch, great way for killing an 8-hour flight.
Oh yeah.
All right. Great. Yeah, I feel like I really need to get a Switch sooner or later. I'm just waiting for them to release like a sort of an updated version in some form or fashion to make the purchase more like interesting. But we'll see if
What,
they...
like you
Well,
want the
interestingly-
ability to put your face on it or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably like Nintendo doesn't really do like PlayStation has done with like PlayStation 4 Pro or the S and X for Xbox or whatever. Probably not gonna see that, but we did see for Wii. We saw the upgraded the Wii controllers, whatever, the upgraded sensors in that, and a little bit stuff like that. I'm just waiting for something of the sorts before.
I mean, they might. I mean, you know, you got the 3D. They did what the 3D, and then they had the 3DS, and then they got the 3DS Plus, which has got a bigger screen. You might find
Yeah,
you
that's
get
true.
a Switch which comes along with a bigger screen or higher.
You may
def
get a
or
Twitch.
something like
Yeah.
that. Might get a Twitch. You might get a Switch Twitch.
Yeah.
Interestingly, something I did find out that I didn't know previously was that the Nintendo Switch does not come with any apps or browsers. So you can play games on it, but you can't go and watch YouTube videos, which I found to
Oh,
be
you
a slight
can't?
surprise.
Yeah.
It is. You're right.
No, or podcasts, so you
I
couldn't
hadn't even
listen
thought
to
about
our
that, but you're right.
dulcet
Yeah.
tones.
Hmm.
Mm.
And there's
Dulcet
not
tones.
even an app, no video apps. I feel like
Nope.
I've heard.
It is
something.
literally, it is just games. It's games that you buy and games that you download from the Nintendo eStore.
Yeah, all right. And they have an excellent voice communication service, I've heard, if you're going to play online.
Oh, okay.
No,
We'll
I
have
haven't.
to test that out, won't we, James? We'll have to play
Yes,
some
we will.
cards and test that out. Yeah.
You're gonna have to.
Important market
love-
research.
I love that you.
For research, for science.
I love that you
Absolutely.
all of you guys actually took that serious, because it's one of the most critiqued features of the Switch.
Well, we wouldn't know because we've never ever used it.
Nah, I feel
Well,
like
go on then, James. Come on, James. Because journalism.
yeah.
Yep.
Done well.
If I remember it correctly, you need to download an app on your phone in order to
Oh,
voice
yes.
chat with in Nintendo Switch games, and that voice chat itself needs I feel like that might be patched out, but in the beginning you had to have the screen active on your phone, otherwise the voice chat would cut off. So when you turned off the screen, the voice chat would disconnect. So you had to have your screen alive on your phone all the time.
I've got a solution, and I think it's called Discord on my phone.
Yes, yes. But I mean, this is if you want to talk in game, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's one of the most critiqued features of the Switch overall. So maybe not use that.
That's bizarre, though, isn't it? You can make an app. That apps can be made to tell your phone to keep the screen on.
Sure.
And if you don't do that, phones are known for turning the screen off.
Sure, but you have a lot of these services that don't require your screen to be on. Wow.
As I say, also, you don't have to have your screen on to have your microphone.
It's really weird.
It's
but then again,
odd.
I don't think maybe that's not a big attraction in Japan when it comes to games over there. I don't know.
I would like to say, and this is very, very brief, that I think for a long time now, Nintendo, when it comes to the real world, have been somewhat out of it. They still make excellent hardware and games, but they're a little bit disconnected from the game.
It's difficult to see what everyone's up to when you're sitting on a pile of money that big.
Yeah, you have to get a telescope and all sorts.
It almost seems like you're saying in Japan they have their housemate but no other friends. That's what it kind of sounds like. So you can play with a friend.
Well, in Japan, it's an incredibly portable experience. I go to cafes and all sorts with their portable consoles. Yeah. It's a portable market, not really a house.
You can't do that here because you get mugged.
Exactly. Yeah.
Plus, they're really tiny controllers, so they work a lot better than the old Duke controller.
Yeah.
Which is being relaunched, isn't it? Out of interest. Sorry, I just want to jump in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might have to do a separate podcast just talking about the Switch at this point.
All right, point taken.
I'm just kidding with you. All right, Josh, do you have something for us?
Yeah, mate, I do, mate. Far Cry 5. I've been playing
Far Cry 5, you say?
Yeah, I do. It's been really good fun so far.
I heard a lot of different opinions on that
reviews. Because, being a cynical sod, I must admit, when it comes to microtransactions, I was wondering, well, what are they doing? Because there was a lot of conflicting opinions and whatnot. And I can safely say that ignoring the thing of buy silver bars for your cosmetics, which you don't actually need at all, the game itself is fantastically good fun. Been thoroughly enjoying it. I want to just make the point here. I didn't really enjoy Far Cry 3 past the first third because it got so damn samey. I didn't play Far Cry 4 for that reason. Far Cry 5 has got so much going on all the time that I do not get bored. And for me, in an open world game, I just need to state that that's actually quite a rare thing. So I've not been bored with Far Cry 5.
I've actually heard that as a critique of the game. Like, there's too much. Like, if you're going on a quest and you're driving from point A to point B, you can encounter like 3 or 4 or 5 other live events that happen during that. Like, there could be guys on the side of the road that you should probably save that have been kidnapped or whatever, but you're just basically driving past them.
Speaking of live events, it's true, right? But to me, that's just a case of I'm in a toy box and I get more roadkill, more explosions, and everything's wonderful. But I want to point out as well that before it was patched, I also had a problem with the killer mutant turkeys that were happening in the game. So the very first live event I had, I'm like, oh god, there are a couple of crazy cultists there. They're about to shoot that person in the middle of the road. I will save them. I did. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. This person's got a quest for me. I'll talk to them. I get the quest. The second I get the actual quest text, Oh, he's dead. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
I've heard that the turkeys are a little bit overpowered.
Just a smidge, but I think that's been fixed now. But it's equally hilarious, so I don't care.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
All right, good.
Highly recommend it. It's good.
Nice to hear something else. I've heard the term "too much fun" being thrown out, like it's gets sort of oversaturated with all the events that happen at the same time, basically. But it's nice to hear that you're really enjoying it. It's one that I feel like I should check out myself because the game itself looks quite incredible for a Ubisoft game, and I've also scaled down the UI a little bit, which is always something that I've had a hard time with when it comes to Ubisoft, because they have so much stuff going on the screen, markers for everything, and a little bit more than that. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Do you know what it feels like? Sorry, I don't want to take this on too long, but it feels to me like, and also the thing that really most impressed me were the side quests. And I know Ubisoft went out of their way to really try and de-cookie cutter them,
Yeah.
if that's even a term. And they really have. And to me, it almost feels like I am playing a sort of a very warped alternate version of GTA 5, because it feels like there's a lot of, you know, the actual story mode. I was never too big on the online mode there, but you know, all the events and quests and whatnot feel very organic, and they don't feel like they've just been sort of just squashed in just to pad it out. And some of them have, of course, but they're a lot more interesting than they used to be, which is great, which is awesome.
All right. Cool. Gonna be interesting to get an update on that to see how you feel about the story. The story itself has gotten some critique in many different directions.
Many different directions.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, we have Little Me. And my recommendation this week is actually going to be another podcast, since I am a avid podcast listener. And there is this podcast that is called The Instance, and the guys who make The Instance are guys from a network called the Frog Pants Network. They're a network of excellent podcasts, so that is a recommendation in and of itself, the Frog Pants Network. They make many different shows. Quite a lot of them are focused on gaming, but there is one that I've been enjoying immensely lately, and that is one that is called There Will Be Dungeons, and it's actually a D&D podcast. And the DM is excellent, and the story he's creating is, I don't know. I'm usually quite harsh when it comes to story. Like, if something doesn't make sense, that sort of sours the experience for me. But he's really painting up this really beautiful world, and the characters are spot on. And the guys who are on the podcast are also really funny. It's not this serious D&D podcast where they're only going into character and they're always talking about what the characters should do and stuff like that. There's a lot of jokes, a lot of like dick jokes and stuff like that as well. Can I say that word on the show? I probably can't say that word on the show. But either way,
I think it's entirely up to you. You're the show boss, my man.
Yeah. I just realized that I probably broke my own rule there. But all right.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
Spoken like a true parent.
Yeah, indeed. Just the way that they talk with each other, the humor and the interactions is brilliant. D&D is something that I've always wanted to try out, but I've never had any friends that were actually into it, so I've never played it myself. But it's really something that I feel like is something that, it seems like it's an experience that you need to have with the right people as well.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
This guy
It's
is
a lot of fun if you get it right.
Yeah, this guy is excellent at creating the story and leading these guys through the world and being adaptive to situations that actually appear. And it's excellent. There will be dungeons. For some reason, you need to go for the Frog Pants Network feed in order to get the podcast version of the show. But it also happens to be something that they stream live, so it's on YouTube as well. So if you just go search There Will Be Dungeons, you will find the show over there. And it's a little bit slow in the beginning, like D&D. From my understanding, I've listened to a couple of them. This is the one that I've only really liked. But it's a little bit slow in the beginning, but I'm at part 10 now, and it's really picking up, and I'm constantly laughing which I rarely do when it comes to interviews.
How long are the episodes, if I might ask?
3 hours, so they're quite hefty.
That's basically a D&D session.
Good
If I was
session
around
time.
a tabletop, I'd want to spend 3 to 4 hours with my
Yeah.
group, so that seems reasonable. Yeah.
So 3 hours a pop for that one. So there's a lot of entertainment going into that one, and a lot of interesting characters. And I'm just dying to see where the story potentially will end up and how the characters will evolve. It's great.
Something else you might be quite interested in then, Sarge, is something called The Order of the Stick, which is a
Right.
comic. Josh knows what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Which is a D&D comic, and that is a lot of fun.
All right.
It is.
That is a
Order
lot
of
of
the
fun.
Stick. I have to check that out. Certainly.
Pokes a lot of fun at the system as well, though.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for the show this week. Pretty interesting discussions. We usually are pretty in sync when it comes to opinions on this show, but I feel like there was some different or straying opinions. I'm not entirely sure how to say it in the right way, but it became quite an interesting discussion, a little bit heated at times, and I enjoyed that. It's probably something that we will try to get more of in the future. But yeah, that is it. If you enjoy the show, then you can find the VOD on YouTube tomorrow, and the audio version, as I said in the beginning of the show, will be live on Saturday. And you can also interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're obviously on Twitch, and we're on Mixer, and we're here on YouTube. So there are multiple ways to get in touch with us if you feel like it. But there's also a way, and that is by email. So you can give us a email at feedback@gunsofanthem.com. I would love for you to do so. And that is it, my little friend Roonies. Thank you for watching, and thank you for tuning in. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Oh, good God.